Welcome to Black Cat Crossing. I'm Barry.
I'm Z.
And I'm Soli.
Hope our paranormal fans are doing well this week, because this week we are discussing The Devil Made Me Do It, Arne Johnson. Oh, before I forget, we are also reviewing two movies, An American Haunting and The Mark of the Bell Witch at the end of the discussion. Wow, you guys, tongue twister there. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's get into the unknown.
All right. So the Glatzel family were like many other American families in the 1980s. They had friends, hopes, dreams, careers, goals, fears, and secrets. They made their home in Brookfield, Connecticut, where they were a relatively happy, tight-knit family. The parents, Carl and Judy Glatzel, their children, Carl, Debbie, and David, lived, worked, and went to school just like everyone else. The Johnson family were much the same. Mary Johnson was a single mother taking care of her children the best way she could. Her eldest son, Arne Cheyenne, affectionately known as Cheyenne by his friends and family, was her biggest help, always taking on more than his fair share to help her with everything. The two families would meet one day at the local supermarket when Debbie accidentally knocked over a display and Arne helped her clean it up. For Arne, it was love at first sight. Okay, I have to stop. Potential trigger warning. He was 12. She was 19. Debbie says she tried to discourage his crush. However, she would go on to become friends with his mother, Mary, who she would visit and go on picnics and beach trips with the Johnson family, and would eventually move in with the family because they lived closer to her job at the food pantry. When Arne was 16 and Debbie was 23, he asked her out and she agreed to the date. Soon they were in love. Grooming. I just find it super hard to believe that nothing happened before Arne was 16. You don't discourage a crush by befriending the mother, moving in, and then starting to date someone who you've literally watched grow up.
Yeah.
That was some kind of creepy ass grooming going on.
I agree 100%. It's very creepy. It's very weird. It's definitely not something that you would do if you were trying to discourage a crush, and then to accept you know the date when he was just 16.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's weird.
Right, like at first I was like, okay, 7 years, that's not bad, and then find out they met when Arne was 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay.
That's just crazy.
All right, back to the story. Before we go off on a tangent, Arne had already dropped out of high school at this point, and in order to help his mother with the household bills and upkeep for his siblings. Soon after this, Mary Johnson fell ill and had to quit her job, leaving only Arne and Debbie to take care of everyone. They quickly slipped into a domestic life and a relationship that resembled a marriage, their shared experiences binding them even closer. The Johnsons and Debbie decided to move out of their home and into the country where the neighborhoods were safer. The kids would have room to play, and everyone could be happier. It seemed that they had found the perfect place for everyone, and they began working on cleaning up the rental property. Debbie was in love with the house. She described it as her dream home, a yellow house with olive green shutters that sat far back into the woods on old Holliesville Road. Not only was the house perfect for them, but it was close to where her family lived and allowed them to visit one another more often. Debbie's family were out on the property helping her and Arne to clean the house and yard so the Johnsons could move in. One of those present was Debbie's 12-year-old brother, David. There are multiple different reports of David's age. Some sources list him as 11. In the master bedroom, there was an old waterbed that belonged to the previous tenants, who still had some things in the house they had yet to retrieve. Everyone took turns lying on the waterbed, reveling in the strangeness of its motion. Everyone except David, who was afraid that it would make him motion sick. Eventually, the Glatzels and Johnsons went back to their various tasks, and later that day, while alone in the master bedroom, David felt as though something had pushed him onto the waterbed. He looked up and saw an old man wearing a torn plaid shirt and blue jeans with a ruddy complexion. The old man looked at David and told him to beware. David would see the old man again later that evening, only this time, he would appear with burned and blackened skin, barefoot with the feet of a deer.
Wouldn't that be scary, being pushed, then being confronted with a strange man that changed the experiences? Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Oh my God. But yeah, I think that would have been very scary, that like all of a sudden it's like one after another.
Right. That'd be super creepy.
Yeah, it would freak me out the first time I saw it, and the second time I would just be a hysterical mess.
Right?
That's just a scary image on the whole.
Right.
Right.
So David would share this with his family as they sat around the kitchen table later that evening. Judy instantly believed David, having heard Ed and Lorraine Warren speak previously and already having a firm belief in the supernatural. Debbie and Arnie thought it more likely that he was just trying to get out of helping them clean. But David was adamant in his belief of what he saw. David would continue to have visions of the old man, and they would become more and more terrifying. The old man would appear as a beast, would recite in Latin, and threatened to steal his soul. Noises could be heard coming from the attic, but no one but David ever saw the old man.
Not long after the visions of the old man occurred, David began experiencing night terrors. His personality began to change, and he began developing strange, unexplainable bruises and scratches. The terrified family contacted the Catholic Church and requested a blessing for the house, which the church complied with. However, the blessing would not help, and the family decided the house was evil and abandoned their hopes of moving into it. Arnie and Debbie moved into Debbie's parents' home in order to help take care of David, who required supervision at night to keep him from harming himself or anyone else. Within 12 days of the initial incident, the Glatzels reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren for help. According to Judy, the family was living in hell. David would be writhing on his bed all night, screaming and shouting obscenities. He would pull at invisible hands that were choking him and flinching in pain from invisible knife wounds. David would spit and kick Judy. He even went after his grandmother. Some reports say that he went after both Judy and his grandmother with a knife. But guys, can you imagine the terror the family must have been living in, seeing their once sweet little boy change so drastically and so quickly, becoming so violent that he would come after family members with a knife?
Oh my God, that's
That
horrible.
would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm. So the family would sleep during the day so that they could stay awake at night to hold David down in his bed. Carl Glatzel wasn't a small man, yet he was unable to hold his 12-year-old son down in the bed alone. David would tell them about the dark entity that was possessing him, and they began to refer to it as the Beast. Annie was 19 and working for a landscaping company at the time. He would go to work in the morning, cut trees and clear brush all day, then go home, eat dinner, and go to bed at 11 when he would get up to watch over David. This cycle would repeat daily. David would be subjected to 3 lesser exorcisms after the Warrens detected multiple devils possessing the boy. David would levitate, hiss in otherworldly languages, and recite passages from the Bible and Paradise Lost. David also expressed some instances of precognition, particularly in relation to the murder that Annie would later commit. In October of 1980, the Warrens would contact Brookfield police to warn them that the situation was becoming dangerous. However, the police were unable to do anything about any of the potential dangers until something did happen. During one of the exorcisms David was subjected to, Annie began to challenge the beast to possess him, to come and fight with him, to leave his body alone. Debbie and the Warrens warned Annie not to do this, that challenging the devils in this way was dangerous. Eventually, the beast would oblige Annie. A few days after challenging the devils, Annie would visit the rental property once more to examine the old well that was believed to have housed the beast. Arne describes this as his last lucid encounter with the demon before his own possession, which took place after he made eye contact with it. Enjoying what you've heard so far? Be sure you never miss an episode by following us. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show. The situation worsened for David. Arne and Debbie decided to move out of the house and back into town to be closer to Debbie's job at the dog groomers. They rented an apartment of Debbie's boss, Alan Bono, and shortly after moving into the apartment, Annie started exhibiting some of the same characteristics that David had been dealing with. Some people would describe Annie as hardworking, kind, church-going, well-mannered, and well-behaved. Others would describe him as quick to anger and possessive of Debbie. Truthfully, he was likely somewhere in between. Annie Cheyenne Johnson did not have a police record before the incident, and he never had one after his release from prison either. However, Monday, February 16th, 1981, something sinister would bring the world crashing down. Annie called in sick to his job with ride-tree service, which he did on occasion so that he and Alan could hang out. This kind of sounds like a slacker to me. that he would hang out with Alan shows that they had a good friendship. Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
He went with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary to Debbie's work at the kennel. Alan Bono was also there and brought the group lunch at the local bar where Alan drank heavily. The group returned to the kennel, and when Debbie's shift was over, they headed to the apartment. Debbie took the girls to get pizza for dinner, but insisted that they return quickly. When Debbie and the girls returned, Alan was intoxicated and agitated. Debbie urged everyone to leave the room except Alan, who seized Mary and refused to let her go. Arne returned to the apartment and ordered that Alan release Mary.
Wanda could recall the following event to the police. Mary ran to the car as Debbie attempted to calm the situation by standing between the two men. Wanda tried to pull Arne away from Alan and out of the apartment in vain. Arne would growl like an animal when he drew the 5-inch pocket knife from his pocket and stabbed Alan repeatedly. Alan would die several hours later from multiple wounds, mostly into his chest and one that stretched from his stomach to the base of his heart. Can you imagine that, watching that? All the emotions and what's going through the mind, what was happening? That was crazy.
That would be so scary to see something like that happen.
Right?
Exactly.
Arne would be found by police about 2 miles away from the scene of the murder. He would be booked into Bridgeport Correctional Center and held for a $125,000 bond. This was the first murder of the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. I was about to say Kentucky. I don't know why, but that's what I was about to say. That would have been horrible. And the details surrounding the murder would be a media frenzy. The day after the murder, Lorraine Warren informed the Brookfield police that Arne was possessed when the crime was committed. The Warrens would feel the media frenzy when their agent promised a lecture, a book, even a movie detailing all the gruesome facts were in the works. Arnie's lawyer, and I'm sorry I'm going to butcher this, Martin Manella received calls from all around the world about the demon murder trial and even traveled to England to meet with the lawyers who had been involved with the two similar cases. Never went to trial. Manila planned on flying in exorcism specialists from Europe and even threatened to subpoena the priest who oversaw the exorcism of David Glatzel, even if they did not cooperate with the defense. Manila said that the court have dealt with the existence of God, now they're going to have to deal with the existence of the devil. This became the first time in history that the defense such as this was used in the American courtroom. And on April 28th, 1981...
Wait, October.
What did I say?
April.
Did I say April?
Yeah.
Wow. That was far-fetched right there.
I actually read April too.
See, at least I'm not the only one. October 28th, 1981. Manila attempted to submit a plea of not guilty by virtue of possession. However, Robert Callahan, the proceeding judge, rejected the plea, stating that no such defense could ever exist in a court of law due to the lack of evidence. That is, would be irrelevant and unscientific to allow related testimony.
Okay, so I do understand the judge's position here, but I can't help but think it's just a little bit hypocritical, considering the swearing in is done on the Bible. I don't know if that's still done that way, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And then it's on the faith that the witness would be truthful, and just the wording as well, where it's you have to, so help me God, I think they say at the end.
Yep.
And then for you to throw out the what the weaknesses would next, would next claim happened of the demonic possession, and then saying that it has to be acceptable evidence given,
Scientific evidence. Yeah.
That's it. I think it's hypocritical to me.
I see both sides of it. Like,
Yeah.
I can imagine so many people would try to say they were possessed if that was something.
Right.
Like, I was possessed when I did it. But I mean, like, if you have like actual gathered evidence that like something was happening prior to this, and like, I just don't see why that evidence wouldn't be admissible in court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Me
my
too.
thought. Mm-hmm.
And so instead, Manila would enter a plea of self-defense. Because Callahan rejected the original plea of possession, the jury was not legally allowed to consider demonic possession as a variable explanation for the murders of Alan Bono. The jury deliberated for 15 hours over the course of 3 days, and on November 24th, 1981, they convicted Arne of first-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, even though he only served 5. The case would lead to television film The Demon Murder Case on NBC, starring Kevin Bacon, Andy Griffin, and Lane Landland.
I think it's Lelaine Langland.
Yeah, that word.
I think that's how you say her name.
That
Lelaine.
word, that person. Sorry, I am very bad with names. So
no, I had to look at I had to do YouTube. How do you pronounce?
See, I should have done that. Gerder Billet. Oh my God.
Gerald Brittle.
Yeah, that person, along with assistance from Lorraine Warren, would publish a book titled "The Devil in Kentucky." No, Connecticut. Wow,
we're just moving
You
this
just
entire
wanted-
case to Kentucky, guys. Like,
I was just
we're going south.
Oh my God, I am so sorry, guys.
It's all good, girl.
Our viewers are like, wow, this girl, this chick is crazy. The book was republished in 2006, and David Glatzel and Carl Glatzel Jr. sued the authors and book publisher for violation of their rights of privacy. Liable and internal affairs of emotional distress. Carl claimed that the book allegedly that he committed criminal and abusive acts against his family and others, that the possession story was a hoax coded by Ed and Lorraine Warner to exploit the family and his brother's mental illness. He also stated the book presented him as a villain because he did not believe in the supernatural claims. He said that the Warrens promised him that the book would make them millions and helped get Arne out of jail. He further claimed that the publicity generated by the incident forced him to drop out of school and to lose friends and business opportunities. In 2007, he started writing his own book, Alone Through the Valley, about his vision of the events surrounding his brother. Lauren Warren defended her work with the Glatz family, saying that the 6 priests who were involved in the incident at the time all agreed the boy was possessed and that the supernatural events described were real. Brittle spoke out of the defense of the devil in Connecticut. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? Connecticut, by saying that he only wrote the book because the family wanted the story told and that he was in possession of over 100 hours of his interviews with the family and that they signed off the book as accurate before it went to the print. Carl Glatzel Sr. denied telling the author that his son was possessed. Arne and Debbie, who is now married, wholeheartedly supported the Warners' account of the demonic possession and that the members of the Glatzel family who brought the suit was simply looking for a monetary gain. So, what do you guys think? Do you think there was a possession at all? Do you think that Ed and Lauren made up some, if not all, of the events of some frame and money? Do you think that Arne just snapped one day, killed his friend, and never hurt anyone else again? I don't know.
I think there's a lot of freaking crazy in this.
You're right.
First off, you have Debbie and Arnie's relationship started out weird and creepy as hell. And then he was only 19 when this happened. He was still a kid.
That's true.
I think that it's also interesting that the Glatzels were happy to go along with a book that would make them millionaires and then decide to sue after the republishing of the book, claiming that the authors were just looking to make money.
Yeah. I thought that was weird too.
Like super hypocritical and slightly off-putting.
Yeah.
During my research, I read that Carl Jr. claims that the Warrens exploited his brother's learning disability, but nowhere in any of that research that I did or read in the notes that either of you wrote did I see anything about David having any kind of mental or learning disorder.
Yeah, they said he was like a normal, regular kid.
Right.
Exactly. I never came across anything like it either.
Like that just seems like trying to garner sympathy for something that you're not actually dealing with.
Exactly.
And as far as the claims that the Warrens made things up, I find that slightly unrealistic, at least to a degree. Like I could see maybe embellishing a little bit for a book or a movie, like maybe. But these people, and sometimes even the church, were the ones that reached out to the Warrens. They weren't out knocking on doors asking if anyone in the home was suffering from demonic possession. Something had to have happened for Ed and Lorraine to end up in the Glatzel home.
Yeah.
And for Arne to have never been in trouble prior to the murder, nor after he was released, like, I think it's entirely possible that Arne and Alan got into a dispute, be it over Alan grabbing Mary or Arne being possessive of Debbie, as some people have claimed. But something brought the Warrens into this story, and something happened to David Glatzel. And Arne Johnson acted out of character that day.
Yeah. So I totally agree. Like, everything is pointing to some type of demonic something other than something normal happened that day. Yeah, I'm like, how do we say this?
But I also wonder, like, how the family of Alan Bono felt about all of this. In all of my research, I never came across anything that mentioned how his family reacted to the media surrounding the case.
Yeah,
me too. I thought that was a bit strange as well, that there was nothing really, but I guess it was more focused on just Annie and David, etc.
Right,
but like I'm curious. Yeah, but
sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, but like all of the research and everything, it was mostly focused. It was mostly geared towards David and Annie, but I am curious too about how the family must have felt with all of this, all the media, all the hoopla.
Right, because They're like Alan Bono's death is just like a side note.
Yes.
Yes.
Like it's not even as important in the big scheme of everything that's going on.
Yes.
Well, my thoughts are like this. Like, we opened with the line of the family having secrets, and we did get to a couple of them, like dark ones, to me anyway. And Z, you have hit the nail on the head for me with the relationship with Arne and Debbie. It's the way it started and the way it developed. It was just
Gross.
very much so, exceedingly so. From Debbie moving in to the progression of the relationship, and I mean from them just starting to date to moving in and having like a marriage style type of relationship.
Right. I agree.
It just reeks of sleaze.
Yes.
And my thoughts on everything else, including the case, it's a little bit like this. I do believe that David experienced possession. Otherwise, the church would not have agreed, because these things are examined so thoroughly before they can agree to do anything. And for them to agree to do multiple exorcisms and then to have the Warrens come in as well to get their take on it, I think for David, I believe that, there is definitely something going on there. For Arne, though, I don't think that he was possessed. I think that he may have been drunk and angry, and things escalated quite quickly, especially when you're drinking. It's a bit if you're a bit impaired in your judgment. And so I think it was more of a crime of passion than a premeditated thing. It was an accident, most likely, nevertheless. But the idea of using possession as an excuse, I think it was just a good one for him at the time.
I think it was a very convenient one.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I don't know how I feel about the idea of Arne being possessed. I think
go ahead, sorry.
I think that like it's entirely possible. Like, he did challenge the devils to attack him, and he was already exhibiting signs of possession before it happened.
That's true.
I don't know. I think it's a very convenient excuse, but I think it's also a very viable excuse.
Yeah,
because I'm saying, like, look at how in most cases of demonic possession, the demons never just leave on its own, especially when they have a good host,
Right.
So for him he's never had any problems with the police before. He commits this crime, and then even after that, there's nothing else, not even when he is in the prison itself, for him to act out, especially with being among other more violent persons, etc. Like, to me, that would feed into the demons that would have been possessing him. And there was never any exorcism on him itself that I researched. There was nothing stating that was ever done for him.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about him ever having an exorcism either.
That's true.
So that is one of the reasons why I think that it was just a convenient excuse for him to commit the crime.
Yeah, that is true. Like, but it's very interesting. Like, I didn't really think about that, how like demons don't really leave you, especially if it's like, and then like Sully said, he was in prison for like 5 years and nothing, and that would have been like a perfect time to manifest.
Exactly. Because I mean, all the negative energy in there, all the violence, all the all that is just like a perfect
breeding ground
for it exactly. And then nothing happened since it's like almost as if as soon as he committed the crime and they just fled.
Yeah.
Or that's all the demon wanted to do with him.
Yeah. It's possible.
I mean, David did have a a vision of the murder happening.
That is true. That is true.
But but you know,
I agree with you. I don't think he was possessed when it happened. He's over here playing devil's advocate.
I know. Like, you're arguing all the sides of the story. I get it. I totally agree. But too, sometimes, I think too, like, if we knew that at a particular moment, if somebody said to us at some particular moment that you would be doing something, you would be doing this, or you would be dying this particular way, I think you would now try to do things in a certain way to try to circumvent that. Exactly. But sometimes in doing that, you actually cause it to happen.
Yes,
that's true.
So I think Arne, he was a mix, like you said, of being the sweet, nice person, but he was a bit obsessive. He did have some negative traits towards him. I mean, as with everybody else,
right?
But some of his was just a little bit on the too dark side, and I think that powered with the drink.
Wait, hold on. I have to interrupt. Who is like really close to the motorcycle?
Oh, me.
Not me.
That was me.
I was like, what the heck? Where's the motorcycle?
That was me. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It just passed like super fast and super so loud.
Don't you love our neighbors?
You know, right? Okay. So yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that it's very likely that he was possessed. I think that it just something happened, whether it was actually Alan grabbing Mary and that set him off, or what, maybe he came on to Debbie. I don't know. But I think it's very likely it was a crime of passion.
Yeah. Plus, like, why was he irritated when
it was Alan that was irritated.
Yeah, like why? What happened?
Probably because he was drunk. Sometimes when people get drunk, they get mean or angry.
I'm a happy drunk, so.
Right, I am too. But I've definitely seen mean drunks.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's possible. It is all possible. Who knows? Who really knows what happened other than Arne himself?
Right.
And, well, he said what he said.
All right. So, how about those movies we watched this weekend, girls?
Oh my goodness, movie night was... okay.
Movie nights.
Yeah, nights. So go.
Yeah. Okay. Go.
You go.
All right. So we watched 2 movies this weekend because we were originally only going to watch An American Haunting. And then at the end of it, we were so disappointed. We decided to watch another one about the same topic.
Yes.
So, well, guys want to start with American Haunting?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's start with the American Haunting.
All right. So I was super disappointed. I kind of got weird vibes at the dance scene and thought they were weirdly like portraying a protective father. And then it kind of like nothing happened again. And then there was the scene where Lucy wakes up and finds John not in bed. And I thought they're really going to go here with it and they're going to ruin it. But then there was less weirdness and I kind of forgot about it and was really enjoying the movie. And then the last 20 minutes happened and it was utter rubbish. There are so many cases that have historical significance and had a shitty father who committed atrocities against his children, that to insert it where there's 0 evidence of it just kind of pissed me off.
The movie pissed me off. It really did. Like I was thinking like, oh, I can't believe that's where they went with. Like my mind is just like the
it almost made the first part of the movie just not even exist anymore.
Right. That's exactly
Right?
how I felt. And I
Like
was so mad because I love Sutherland. Like, he's one of my favorite actors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the first part of the movie, and then it totally got destroyed.
Yeah.
Like,
Agree.
I was so into it too. And then, yeah. So they did amazing in the beginning. And then especially with the facts that they had in the information, and then, yep, they took a sharp turn to Wacky Town. That's for sure. So, especially that there was nothing said or stated that that's what happened.
Yep.
Exactly. And I just feel like what started off as a promising and spooky movie, it just turned so ridiculous so quickly.
Right?
Yeah, the first 3/4 of the movie, oh, I enjoyed it. I squealed. I
Yeah.
I was really into it. And I feel like too, maybe they were approaching the end, like, you know, the set limit in the length of a movie, and they almost rushed the end, and they figured, you know what, let's just, you know, end it with this. And they decided to throw in that absolute BS to end it with. And it left me with such a heavy feeling of disappointment. And I'm even a little bit sad to say that I regretted having watched that movie, American Haunt. It just left a sour taste in my mouth at the end.
Yep.
Yep. Agree.
Agreed.
However, the Mark of the Bell Witch,
Yes.
Yes.
that was a good one.
Was
Yes,
a good
it was.
one. I loved this one. The reenactments were done very well. The information was useful. It was interesting. I love that they brought in the local historians and the folklorists. They were great choices. And even after doing research on the Bell Witch, I still learned new information. I'm really looking forward to doing this case.
Right? Yeah, if you like documentary type movies, this is like the movie to watch. I loved it. They covered all or most of the information facts, and like you, I learned new things too. Even after I did some research. So, bravo.
This one, I'm clapping, guys. That one was so During the retelling of the tale, I got so excited about the story of the Bell Witch all over again. And I only learned about the Bell Witch when Z mentioned it. I think it was Z who mentioned it the first time. So I knew absolutely nothing about it, never having heard it before. And then we did the research. Everything was, you know, great. And then watching this documentary, it felt familiar, yet not, because it meshed so well with what I had learned. And then it uncovered new facts and a different way of telling the things that I already researched. So now, though all those little snippets, I'm just curious to find out and just dig a little bit more to find out even more about the Bell Witch. This was definitely a well put together documentary, and I would recommend it to anyone curious about the story of the Bell Witch, whether it's new to you or you're familiar with it. Definitely, I would suggest checking out the Mark of the Bell Witch.
Yeah, totally.
So, thumbs up on the Mark of the Bell Witch and thumbs down on An American Haunting.
Yes. Definitely like 2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs way down.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was episode 2, The Devil Made Me Do It, Arne, Cheyenne, Johnson. Don't forget to check out the website, www.blackcatpodcast.co. You can drop us an email at blackcatpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at Black Cat Crossing Podcast, on Twitter at Black Cat Crossy 2. That's Black Cat Crossy, CROSSI, and the number 2. Or head over and follow the Facebook page, Black Cat Crossing Podcast. We'd loved hanging out with you today. Be sure to check back on Monday for the next episode, and we'll see you soon.
In
the
unknown. That was a little better.
Yes.